Okay, this is looking pretty good. This is looking a bit like a solid color right now. I'm just going to delete history, Alt-Shift-D. And you shouldn't, yeah, it is just a solid color. Also, you shouldn't use Lambert 1. That's the default material. You should assign a new material. But the idea is to paint the texture because you just don't want just a solid skin color. You want some color variation for the different parts of, the palm of the hand versus the back of the hand, the elbow, and forearm versus back of the arm, all that stuff. This has... Just trying to figure out what's going on here. See if I have a leather bump mapping. That just, I think, let's just turn that off for a minute. I'm just going to clear this graph and then map the current materials on there. And I'm just going to turn off the bump for a second, just to see. I'm just undoing and redoing, comparing the two. I think that bump is, as it is, yeah, it's just looking very pixelated and chunky. I don't think that turned out that well for you. So I would probably lose that. I think, are these your UV borders right there? Yeah, there's pretty obvious seams here that don't, I mean, in a way you can have clothing seams, but right now it just looks like UV seams, not clothing seams. You can paint that out in Maya. I sent you a video on that. It will overwrite your existing material, so you might want to back it up. But you can go paint, 3D paint, and then assign edit textures, and I'll just do 2048 by 2048 and assign edit textures, and then put it in the clone mode right here, and then set clone source. I'll hold down B to change the brush size. B, click and drag, and I can change the brush size, and then set clone source. I click over here, and then I can start painting over these seams a little bit. I'm just clicking. I'm not dragging too much, and you can see I can start to lose that really obvious seam. Just setting clone source again. Do I have my opacity is kind of low. I might turn that up.
You put it too far up. So
Make sure you use a soft brush like this, maybe an even bigger one. You have to set the clone source a lot. Anyway, you have to spend some time on it. That wasn't exactly brilliant, but
oh wait, can I show you something too?
it'd be better if the colors were a little closer together. You'd get away with it more, but at least you don't have these like super obvious sharp seams here. I think, as you do here, for example, it's really... So that's a way to afterwards adjust the seams. Oh, I should just mention, to keep those changes, you have to hit Save Textures. If you don't hit Save Textures, you'll lose that. It doesn't matter if you save the scene or not. You have to hit Save Textures because it's saving an external file. It's writing over that JPEG file. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit of painting on this one. The lips look a mess right now. See what that looks like in the UV map. Panel UV. I mean, yeah, it looks like a mess in here too, so I might try cleaning that up in Photoshop, actually. Because you can use these lines to help guide you, and just clean that up and just repaint that, save it. And you can probably do some touch-up around the eyes and stuff too in Photoshop as well. Yeah, so, and then the boots, what's the deal with these? So, it's just a solid color with a big bump map on it. Not great, really you should be painting textures for all this stuff. And the bump looks like the wrong scale, and it's a procedural texture, which isn't going to look... And it's a 3D texture, so... unless you create a reference object, a texture reference object, or convert the material to a file texture, what's going to happen is that as this moves, it's going to sort of move through the bump map because it's a 3D. You can't see it here, but once you render, it will it'll like sort of move through that. So either, just like with the eyeball, either you have to create a texture reference object, or you have to convert the material to a file texture. But I wouldn't really recommend using a procedural bump map anyway. I don't think that looks so great. So the more important thing is actually painting a texture. So you have like, like the stitching or the leather seam in there, and a sole that's separate from the top. And this looks like, just slap a color, slap a procedural thing, and walk away. It's just not going to look that good. You should really take the time to paint this stuff. So overall, I think this could use a lot of work. I mean, very little is really carefully painted. I mean, even the lips, like I said, are kind of a mess right now. So I think you could really take another good pass and improve this quite a lot, because the model's pretty good. It's just the texture looks kind of rushed, and could use some work.